Well, hi everybody, this is Mr. Verzat. I'm going to do a brief beginner demo on how to add value with a couple new painting techniques using blending modes with layers. So let's get started. So what we have here is a material study from a student, and this is palm tree branches. It's off to a great start. I'm going to show you guys how to give that nice little edge to your painting. So the first thing we're going to do is create our value check layer. What that means, I want to see this in black and white. So I'm going to create a brand new layer, get my paint bucket tool, select the color black, paint black over everything. And then with this layer right here, here is what's called a blending mode. I'm going to go down and select saturation as the blending mode. And it makes the black see-through and gets rid of all the color. So we see this as just black and white. It's a great way to help check your contrast in your image. You can turn it on and off. So for starters, let's select the entire form here. Use the magic wand, select the gray background here, and what I want to have happen is to be able to paint inside of the silhouette of my form without going outside the lines. And so as you can see, if I were to do that, I have the gray selected. I want the form itself selected. So you can't see on your screen, but at the very top, I'm going to click on select and then inverse. Now let's check. Sure enough, now it's changed the selection to the form itself. To get rid of the marching ants, I'm just going to hit Command H to hide them. And as you can see, it still keeps the selection handy. A blending mode can be found here on your layer window, right at this little drop down. And there's a lot of them. The two that we're going to use today are multiply and overlay. Multiply makes things darker, overlay makes things lighter. And I want to darken this plane. So I'm making a brand new layer. I'm going to set that to multiply blending mode. And I'm going to rename it to multiply. So there's two ways we can do this. We can use the color black, or we can use the local value, which would be like a darkish brown here. And let's try both and see what happens. So selecting black and having that set to multiply, I'm going to do what's called a wash, meaning I'm going to just paint solid tone over the entire surface without paying attention to the details, the highlights, and all the little forms in here, okay? So here we go. Holy smokes, that's too dark. Let's back it down. I'm going to go to 50% brush strength. Whoa, that's still really dark. Well, the reason why, when you're set to multiply, it literally multiplies how strong the pixels are. It makes the layers see-through, and all the dark pixels start to add on top of each other. So I'm down to about 20% brush opacity. I'm just putting in a blob here, and I have not picked up my tool yet. Let's do one more pass. And already you can see there's quite a difference in the contrast already. Another way to work while you do this is to do it when you have your value check layer on, right up here. Now already you can see a major difference in contrast here. If I turn my new shadow layer on and off, very effective. But the question is did adding black help the colors or hurt it? What do you think will happen if we use color instead of black? Well, let's turn this off. I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to call that multiply color, and let's see if there's any difference. I'm going to sample the local value that's dark here, and I'm going to really crank it up a little bit, saturate it, and then pull it down. And now let's see what happens when we have our black and white layer on, and let's just paint a wash over it again, just like we did before. Let's turn off the black and white and see what happens. This is with color. This is with dark and light. Color. Black. You can see that though the black has stronger contrast, the color has more of a natural glow to it. Black tends to pull colors out. It tends to desaturate it and suck the life out of your piece. So I'm going to try one more little thing. Let's do one more pass with the color on there to get it a little bit darker. And in black and white, let's compare that to our black and white layer here. That's black and white. Here's color. Pretty close. Let's check it. Color. Black and white. All right, so let's clean this up a little bit. And what you do is you get a soft-edged eraser and clean up the piece. So I'm just going to erase out some parts. It's going to look as if it's brightening up different planes. All I'm doing is I'm just taking away from the layer that I just painted. A lot of that brush stroke went into this front plane and so on. Now we can also use this eraser to add highlights. I'm going to take my soft edge eraser and I'm going to turn it down about 20% strength. And maybe there are some areas in here that are catching light. So like these hard edges, I could use my eraser and do a stroke, and see by erasing that shadow layer out, it makes it look like I've just added a highlight to it. Use a smaller brush, and if you make a mistake, Command Z and undo. Now the same thing works if you want to add more shadow. So I'm going to use my brush tool, and let's say in between these overlapping folds of bark, we're going to have some more dark. So let's go in here. I'm going to use my brush, shrink it down. And here is a piece of bark that will probably cast a little shadow here. And boy, that's pretty intense. I'm going to back that down to about 20%. Harden up that edge. Let's go over here. Try to find another one that overlaps. Here's a place that overlaps right here. Cast a little shadow. Blend them in. Cast a little shadow. And so on. And I'm still on that color multiply layer. Now you see in between each of these is these gaps of negative space here. I can also go in and continue to add value in between these shapes as well. Just paying close attention to hard edge and soft edge, just to darken up areas where it's necessary. And if it's too soft and ugly, use your eraser at low opacity and start to fade that out. So let's go to the opposite. Let's add some light. This top layer right here feels as if it should be a little bit darker. The light's hitting directly here on the left, but we need some up on the top. So the same principle is you make a new layer. I'm going to call that overlay. And I'm going to set that to blending mode overlay. Now again, there's two ways to do it. One, you could paint with white. So let's try 50% strength. Holy smokes, that's powerful. Let's try 30%. Now let's just do a wash over the whole thing. And look, I'm painting over all that hard work that I just did on this left plane. Don't worry, you could paint around it, or because it's its own layer, you can always just go and erase that out. Brighten that up a little bit. Zoom out, before, after. Already a huge boost in contrast. Now using my eraser tool, I'm just going to go in at 100% strength and erase out that white on these planes here that I covered up. And now let's see what it looks like in color. Whoa, look how it glows. That's the thing about overlay. It works with the pixels that were already there and really makes it resonate and really makes it glow. But that doesn't really match this plane over here on the left. Well, if you want to smooth things out a little bit, there is another blending mode right below it called soft light. And what soft light does is it softens the effect a little. So here's before, after. And the local value of this, because it's like the inside of a tree, is going to be darker. So it's up to you as the artist to make the call if that's effective or not. And let's check before and after. So this is with value manually painted in. And then if we add in all those different effects, it really helps things pop. And again, you can really go in and get really detailed by adding some multiply and then erasing it out, adding some overlay, and so on. So hopefully this helps, and I look forward to seeing you guys in class. Take care.